Hello, hello. Hi, ladies of the Fearlessly Ambitious group. I hope you're all having a great afternoon and you're patiently waiting for this interview. And hopefully some of you women that are either at work or, you're dealing with your daily children and your lives, that you can catch the replay later. But I'm Shonda Brooks. Everybody knows who I am. And I have our wonderful, exciting guest, Miss Cheyann Reagan. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. That was one pre-question that I forgot to ask to make sure that I'm pronouncing your name right. But thank you for being here and coming on live on our Facebook group to encourage us, to inspire us. I've been watching you for a while, since I met you years ago at the Latino Leadership Summit. And I've just been watching the wonderful growth that you've been doing and all the great things that you're doing, especially as a woman of color. I admire you for taking action and moving forward in your dreams and your goals. So I always watch these women that I see, that I follow on Facebook, who might not be completely connected and friends and know each other well, but I see you. And I've been seeing you. So thank you for everything that you do. Can you just tell the women about yourself and what you do?
Sure. So hello, ladies. I'm a screenwriter, a film director, producer for new media as well. Every day is creating, every day is networking, every day is trying to see the future. What story am I going to tell that is going to create an impact in this world? And that's really important to me. I don't or haven't really put my hands into other people's projects because I'm not as passionate about it. And that's something I made a decision right away. If I'm not 100% on board, then I'm not doing anyone service. So that's really important to make those choices of how your personality works. And because that's when you're able to grow the most. So that for me is what I do every single day.
Okay, well, tell us your profession, because we put you're a writer, producer, director. Tell us how you got into this field and when.
Okay, so it goes way back. When I started into college, I was actually a pre-law major. And I didn't know that this could be a job for me at all. I didn't even know this was a field I could go into as a Mexican American. And honestly, it wasn't until I took an elective course that said, here's the acting, here's types of classes you can take, and I thought it'd be an easy route. So what inspired me to move in this direction was that there was no plays or any kind of story or fairy tales that had people of color as heroes. And that really moved me. I just remember feeling and taking it very personally that there wasn't anyone even working on this. Besides, I actually had a director say, "Oh, you have the American Me film," and and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't represent me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
American Me. Say thank you.
Everyone that's Latino is a cholo or comes from this or background.
Right.
I mean, that is a path. That's unfortunately, a sideways life that my family had to go through. My uncle was in that scene, but no one wants that. This is not a hero.
Right.
So I had to explore that and really take a risk because I knew, unfortunately, the majority of the world knows it's very hard to make money in art. And it's very hard to be sustainable in this field. But I just knew this is the first thing that really just hit me like a train. And if I didn't clear that up, I wasn't even going to feel like, why am I even here? What's my purpose if I know this is a problem and I could be the solution? So that's how I got into it. I didn't even know that I could do it. My high school teacher told me I was a terrible writer. So This is not my world. I'm supposed to be protecting people. I could do that in law. You know, I knew a couple lawyers and how their world was. I'm like, I could do that. But this world, never knew. And until I started exploring, like, what is my voice? Who am I? What is my identity? That's when I started, you know, becoming my own philosopher. And it's moved my life. It's brought me to things that I never thought. I never thought I could go into film, that's for sure. I had a theater director tell me, hey, you know what, the plays that you're directing, Cheyann, and writing, you know, they're actually more, you know, visual. Like, maybe you do a lot of voiceover. Maybe you should get into film. And I'm like the movies? Like, I literally was blown away that he thought I could be like something in the movies, because the movies were like, you know, our windows of escape, you know?
Yeah.
So he's like, I think that might be where you're meant to be at. And I just couldn't believe it. He's like, you should go check out NYU. And I'm like, and what, New York? My family's never left the West Coast. Like,
right.
The band could take us. That's as far as we go. So, you know, I grew up with humble beginnings and, you know, like a lot of people, and I just didn't think that might be a path, but I never said no to it. I definitely just said, let me see what I can do. And every time I didn't. I went by myself for a week to test it out, and I hated the weather.
Yeah, I bet that snow. Did you go in the winter?
Went in the dead of heat. It was August.
Yeah, in the summer.
I just stepped outside and the makeup rolling off my face, and I'm like, you know, I was 20. I was like, oh, this is disgusting.
Right. So we're so spoiled in California, right? We're so spoiled.
Spoiled. So, I mean, I went and I explored, and, you know, I got to the campus, and I'm like, you know what? I knew myself, and I knew I wasn't going to do well. I was like, I need to go back to Cali. Yes, you New Yorkers know.
Yeah, right. They know. And Kyle, we have Imani, Kyle, and Latanya. I just want to say, acknowledge you guys are here, and I see you prompting on. So thank you for watching. But yeah, that East Coast weather.
And I get it why, you know, there's certain people that have to make it there. Like, you're going to make it.
Right. They're tough. You got to wake up earlier to get your car ready to leave out of the house. And I mean, I'm like shoveling your driveway. I mean, it's things that they go through. Yeah, it's a whole different world. But so you went for the week. And then what happened?
Yeah, I knew it was an amazing city, but I knew I needed to stay local. I needed to still figure out, you know, who I was going to be as an adult, and ended up at Cal State Long Beach. And I went to film school there, and then I found out Spielberg was going there. So for me, that was like a really big deal. He was the filmmaker that, you know, we grew up in the 80s. And so personally, that was like, okay, he's my mentor, because I don't know anyone else that does this.
Right. Yeah, there's no images of women too, right? There was no writer, producer, directors, women that you could look up to.
And that was my hero, you know? And so I was like, well, this is what I have to work with. And I'm going to tell people, yeah, my mentor is Spielberg. Like, really? Like, well, yeah, because that's the only movies I know.
Yeah.
Well, reality, we know. But that's the path I took. I focused on screenwriting, and then I worked on a lot of people's other productions, and I started seeing like how they work. But I just spoke to my husband. He's a teacher. And I spoke to his students last Friday. And I said, you guys are so lucky to have the internet. Like, you literally can Google or tweet any hero now and understand how they do things, you know?
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Back in the days, like when I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to get on a set. I had to look at the white pages. I knew I loved MTV, like studios. And I'm like, Santa Monica, I've never even, where's that? I don't even know where that is.
Yeah. The white, I just got a flashback of white pages. I mean, like, really? Yeah.
I had to use. And these kids are like, we don't even know what white pages are. I'm like, well, that was my Google before.
Right. Encyclopedias and the yellow and white pages. That's how we got our information.
Yeah, and I had to use a Thomas guide to like find out how to get to Santa Monica. I was like an hour away. Didn't even know that. But I went there. I showed up with my little sundress, and I was like, hi, I want to work for MTV. And they're like, what? Girl, honey,
They're like, and who are you?
I'm like, I'm Cheyann Montiel, you know? They're just like, we don't have any more. I have no clue. I needed to get there, and they were going to get me a job. The woman, like, out of pity, was like, here, sliding me a number. She's like, call them. At least you'll get on set, and you'll be able to figure out. And it was for
wow.
to be an extra, but she was right. That got me on the set to see how things were working behind the stage. But that was my first set, like being
awesome.
In production. And next thing you know, I was like, well, who actually hires everybody? And they're like, oh, the producer. I'm like, oh.
I gotta know that person.
I need to know who that is. So I walked over. I'm like, hi. They're like, hi.
They're like, and you are.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm working as an extra today. I'm like, but how do I get to work with you guys? And they're like, oh, you want to work? I'm like, I'll work for free. Like, I'm a college student. I have my own full-time job. So, you know, I just need to know how to get in this. Like, I don't know anybody. And they're like, oh, I'll show up next Saturday. We'll be here. And it was like, can you round up a few friends? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, casting associate. I'm like, oh, I'm a title. Casting associate.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
It's those little steps, but they fueled me, you know. It was like, hey, I just figured out how to connect the dots, you know, like that. This is making sense. So that's how I've been doing to this point, is you just find your way, find tools, and figure it out.
That's so awesome, Cheyann. I mean, I think that we all need to learn, and I think that's how I moved up in my world, the same way. It's like you just kind of go in blind, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm here. Okay, I want to do this. All right, now who's in charge? I need to know them, and I need to directly ask them, how do I get on set, or how do I work here? Absolutely. You know, and you just keep fit. You just navigate, and you collaborate, and you are visible. You let people know you're there. And you have to stand out, right? You have to.
They thought I was like 13 or something, you know, because they're just like, is your family here? Are you a child actor? I'm like, no.
Right. That is so funny. That is so funny. I mean, but that's a great story on how you kind of created your own path. You went to set. You got on by chance, right? Somebody was nice and gave you the information that you can get on set. You got on set and you started working it. You started working it for yourself. You knew what you wanted. Yep. At a young age.
To figure out, how do they make a film or a product or a TV show? How do you make this? Like, so I didn't know.
You were a student on set and you watched how they did it.
Yeah.
So then from that point, what made you, at that point, did you want to be a writer, director, producer when you were in there, or you just wanted to be an actress?
No, I actually, because of that one class I was taking, I knew I needed to become a writer. So there's no writers on set. So that's where I needed to figure out, well, wait a minute, how do you get this? Like, how a writer's not here? Because in a play, in a theater, the playwright is there, you know, in the beginning of the production. They're constantly making changes because it's such an intimate process, theater. So that's where I already saw the shift of a theater experience and a TV production, but I still wasn't connecting the dots back then that I'd end up being a film writer, a screenwriter. You know, I just knew I needed to be a writer. And how do you do that? Well, what is the end product? I don't know. Like, I had only seen church plays before, or like, you know, your high school play. Like, our family didn't have money to go to Pantages, or, you know.
Yeah.
My dad was the only worker, and my mom stayed at home, and it wasn't, you know, what people have now. You can Google Hamilton and see, like, you know, little cuts on YouTube.
Right.
So it was definitely the process of just getting there and understanding, like, you know, it's like that idea that the Indians never knew what the ships, you know, coming to the Europeans. It was the same thing for me. Like, I didn't even know what this looked like. You're like, what does that even look like?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I needed to see, oh, just because I'm a writer doesn't mean that my work's going to be seen. Like, I need to work with a lot of different people in order for this to actually come to life. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I knew, like, okay, there is a lot more than I know what I'm getting myself into. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what took me on my path of not only writing for the stage, but doing these side productions. It was more or less just me learning, like, what does this mean? I don't know what this means. And then when I got to the point of that director saying, oh, you should go to screenwriting, that's what it was like. You don't even realize that I didn't even connect the dots. Like, yeah, I've been helping on other productions. Like, of course I should go into TV and film. Like, but until someone tells you, you need that like aha moment, or that one person that you never thought would be that person.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, okay. Like, I'm not going to take it personally that he didn't say, oh, Cheyann, you should be the next big playwright, you know, which it could have, I could have, but he had said, he was like, I think you might explore more in film. So that's what shifted me to really want to be a writer, director for film. Mm-hmm. And then when I got to film school, I was like, oh, I need to be a producer. Mm-hmm. A producer is the person that actually makes things happen. I mean, I know that I'm a very good writer and I'm a very good director. I can't say I'm 100% the best producer, but it's that learning. It's a learning, you know, skill, especially in film. It's everything's changing, and especially with the internet, new media, now with, you know, virtual reality. I mean, my field is seriously constantly changing. So I didn't know it was going to path till I knew I wanted to tell my stories. Like, I knew there was no stories with a brown girl that could be the romantic lead before. Like, J-Lo wasn't even there yet, you know? There was nothing. So I'm still fighting for those. I'm fighting for, and God bless for the actresses that had to play the maid scenes. I mean, that was all needed. But now I'm writing the roles that these women are like us. We're in it, we're living it, and we don't need to fit to the stereotypes. You know, it's we're getting beyond. We're more complex, obviously.
Yes. We're more than maids, housekeepers, farmers, or
for me.
What did you say?
I said ortolas or the border.
Right, exactly. We're a lot more than that. So hi. Somebody waved behind you. Hi, brother. So yeah, exactly. And thank you for saying that. So what I wanted you to talk about is tell us about like a few of your projects in your films. And you have a short film, right? And then you're working on a major picture, motion picture. I don't know what you call it. Like I said, sorry if I don't get the right language. I'm not in your industry.
Yeah. Correct. So I have a pilot in a full web series called Off and Running, and I have a couple of shorts. I have, I believe, 4 to 5 short films now. I'm like, wow. I'm already forgetting. Mm-hmm. I have a music video, and I've done a couple book trailers. But personally, for me, I've done a lot of, it's called ghostwriting, where I help other people on their projects, or I'm just like a behind the scenes kind of consultant. And to me, that's the greatest gift, is when what you're doing, you know, what a lot of you women are out there trying to pursue is just being that person that can just say that little whisper in someone's ear to say, hey, this is what you're missing. And then it's like, boom, you know, like they're off and running. And that's why I titled my web series Off and Running, because that's what I hope people could see and find in themselves, that doesn't matter where you come from. Like, if you have that passion and drive, destiny is going to take you where you need to go. So that personally, for me, all my films have that theme. There's a family theme. There's that, the underdog theme, and coming of age. I feel coming of age can be at any age, literally. So my last film was actually of a 60-year-old woman who her and her daughter are finding themselves at the same space of learning to date again. And it's this really cute short film that I made 2 years ago. But that was my last project. But the project I've been working on for 3 years is my film that's now, it's a sci-fi. And It's called Interference, and it's really important to me because I love sci-fi. Women aren't necessarily connected to action or sci-fi type of films.
Right.
So personally, for me, I am championing this concept. So many people are like, "Oh, you write action? You write sci-fi?" Like it's
yeah,
women.
yeah, right.
But that's what I grew up with. I grew up with Indiana Jones and Back to the Future and E.T. And so those are things that I really love researching, history and supernatural stuff. And so that to me was, I knew this is going to be my calling card. So right now it's a $2 million film, which obviously can go way higher if we get the right actor on board. But that's what our budget is right now, and we're creating it. We're literally, I'm putting on a team that, gosh, these people are so amazing, and I'm just blown away how the universe is just providing those people, because I'm ready, and I took that extra time to really make sure that the script was my best that I've ever done. And so getting that constant feedback, you know, sending draft after draft. I mean, literally, I knew that if I'm going to get to direct this, and if independently and fully funded, it's got to be the best that the world has ever seen. And that's what you're doing. That's what everyone's doing in their own individual work, is that you literally have to be the champion of your own work. And that's what I'm doing. Like, I see myself like an athlete. Like, I get up, I work out, I do the time, I fuel my body with healthy things. That's a 24-hour cycle, you know, sleeping, taking care of yourself, the mental health, super important. So that's what I'm doing right now. We're actually, speaking of New York, we're planning to head to New York in 3 weeks and with a round of investors. So playing and getting ready to shoot. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Wow. That's amazing. And that leads me into the next question is, and to this audience of women that are going to watch this interview about hard work and about putting in the time into your craft, putting the time into your dream and your passion. And, you know, something I say all the time is like, how bad do you really want it? How bad do you really want it? And if you really want it that bad, then you will make the time. And you will make the time to make sure and perfect your script, right? Perfect your writing. You're constantly learning and figuring out how to make it better. And you're practicing. It's like a muscle, right? You just have to work that muscle and work it and work it and work it. You have to exercise, just like if you're trying to get fit. If you're trying to study for a test, or you're just trying to get to an overall goal. Your business is not your business. Your film, whatever project that you're working on, is not going to be successful unless you put that time into it. And you need to make sure that that is your passion. Because if it's not your passion, and if it's really not what you're supposed to be doing, then you're not going to put the time in. It's just a hobby, or it's just something that you think, I got to do right now because somebody else is doing it. You know, it's like a cool, fun, the new business right now, or the new thing. So, you know, I think it's so important, especially to these women in this group, is putting that time into your passion and really crafting it and making sure it's the best and it's quality, and that you're dedicated to it and that you love it. You have to love it, right? Because you wouldn't be putting in all that time if you really didn't love what you were doing.
I mean, I've written over 5 feature scripts now, and they take about 1.5 years each for each one. So not only in my field am I just trying, you're not a good writer based on grammar and copying someone else's template. You know, you're a good writer when you can read between the lines and understand what is it that you're trying to say to the world. Like, and symbolism, you got to do your research. Like, I read constantly, like, you know, other people's books of philosophy or religious Bibles from different types of religions, and it's learning symbolism, learning like it really is. It comes down to language, storytelling. When it all comes down to is language, and who are we right now as humans? You know, we're seeing a lot of changes right now. And if I'm not almost being psychic and being on top of that game, then how am I going to compete with the best, you know?
Right.
All about timing. So for me, this has taken me 16 years to get my first feature film. And I'm 35 years old. And that has been worth every single sweat, tear, blood, you know? And that's where a lot of people think, oh, this is like a, you know, oh, you get into film or TV and it's this like fantasy. Well, no, it's really hard, especially for a woman. I believe the statistic is that there's either 6 to 8% of women directors in the entire industry and 1% of minority women directors.
1%.
1%. So you're talking about no one's telling our stories. No one is understanding what it's like to live in the hood or to understand that growth of coming from nothing to creating what's in your hands, you know. No one's telling those stories, and that's what I'm pushing. Anytime I meet women that are doing that, it's like, hey, I don't care what type of job you're doing. Like, if you're doing something to create that push to help the next level, it's like you're helping, you know, like you're part of the solution, because that's what I'm seeing is like, I want women to be successful in small businesses. I want to see them create, if they are like, hey, you know what, I'm interested in clean technology, or I'm interested in, you know, jobs or industries that are male dominated. Hey, go back to school, figure it out, take one class at a time. I mean, I go to the dollar store to like, you know, buy supplies for like birthday parties. And I had all these graduation balloons because my husband's getting his master's degree. And then the cashier, she's like, oh, are you graduated? I'm like, no, my husband is. And she's like, oh man, I wish I could go back to, I took one college class and it was just so hard. And, you know, I'd love to go back for interior design. And I'm like, hey, what? Do it. Like, you know what? 3 years ago when it was harder, it's not any, it's, you know, it's probably a little bit easier now. Like, we shift into these like times where there's so much problems, more chaos. And then you find yourself, if you have time to think, oh man, I wish I could do that. Then guess what? You have half your problems lifted.
Exactly.
And you have time to create more problems in school and finish your things that you started, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no limits. There's no limits. And that's great. You know, we have to be those catalysts for change and inspiring to move.
If you see women, you know, and if they, for some reason, give you a prompting, like talk to them, be like, hey girl, what's going on? What's your problem? Like,
and that's what I tell these women in this group, you know, because even the ones that are hiding and we don't hear from, it's that you never know who is watching.
Oh, absolutely.
You never know who is watching, because that one person, you know, you might have this project or this business that you're doing, and they might need you. They might need you, or they might have a connection for you. And then before you know it, you're going to the next level, or you've got an opportunity that you would never have had if you didn't show yourself. And if you didn't put yourself out there, right? You would have never had that opportunity unless you went to that set and said, hey, I'm Cheyann, you know, let me in. and you had a nice person that slipped you a phone number that got you in. You would have, unless you put yourself out there. And that's how you got that opportunity that got you to where you're at now, right? You wouldn't have gotten here where you are today unless you had that young girl that went to that studio and put herself on set. You put yourself on it.
Really prep me. I'm going to go way back. Okay. So because my dad, he was a grocery manager at South Central, you know, when he needed help to get things done, like we'd go help him as kids. And, you know, he had to do everything to make ends meet. So he used to also have a ticket agency, and as, you know, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old version of me, I'd be working with him, you know, and it was like, hey, let's get it done. Let's get it done. And I would be in charge of a bunch of adults. And I didn't realize it till later, because I thought, hey, you know what? We need to buy tickets in order to resell. This was my dad's product. Like, I was an entrepreneur back then, didn't recognize it. So had I not gone through all that hustle, I would not be fearless to drive all the way down to just some office. I'm like, who cares about the office? I'm not dodging police or South Central, you know? This is just an office called MTV. Like, who cares? You know, like, I'm gonna get shot here. So, like, it's all those things. It's those little details that maybe at some point you thought, oh, that could have been traumatic, or, oh, this is something like, I don't want to tell anyone. For me, I'm like, I learned my hustle on the streets. Like, this is how I bring it to the table. And obviously, I'm very respectful. I value every single human because the same thing. What you're saying, you never know who's going to be your next boss. I just told my husband's students the same thing. Mm-hmm. They knew I was Mrs. Reagan. They didn't know what I do. Mm-hmm. And getting the class, I understand it's like senioritis. You know, it's the end of the
Right. They want to go.
They're talking, and I'm sitting there. You know, I'm dressed up. I'm present. They're talking. Mm-hmm. One kid looked at me and said, "Oh, hello, you're Mrs. Reagan." I'm like, "Yes, thank you. Good morning." He sat back down. And I said, hey, listen, my husband's a beautiful teacher. Appreciate all these selfless government workers. But when you get to the real world, it's cutthroat. And the only person I want to talk to right now is the one kid that acknowledged me because he knew, hey, we're having this special guest come in today. He was present and he gave me eye contact. Mm-hmm. Now I want to talk to that kid. I want to know who this person is. And that to me, it's that level of respect, you know? Yeah. And
it's showing up on time, showing up, the way he showed up, right? And you never know. He stood out as somebody to you. You might call him to be in one of your films one day, right?
I actually did. I actually got his email. He's like, I'd love to be an extra. I'm like, easy.
See? I mean, because you came to his, and the way he showed up, he was present. He introduced himself to you. But he would probably have never, if just like everybody else that walked straight to their seat, didn't acknowledge you, had senioritis, looking at their phones, not paying attention.
They're in their own chaos.
They're not focused, and that kid is going to get an opportunity that you never know what's going to lead him into. So I want to mention Imani's comment. She put Shonda Rhimes, Ava DuVernay, Gina Prince Blackwood, and Cheyann Reagan telling our stories. That gave me chills. But it's true. We need people like us telling our stories and representing. And I'm so proud of you, just as a woman of color, as a young woman in our 30s. And I'm only in my 30s for a few more months, so I'm gonna claim it
as long as you want to be.
I'm gonna hold on for dear life to my 30s. But I so appreciate you and the hard work that you are showing to other young women, because you're a role model. So thank you for that. And I also want you to share. I told the ladies to start prompting their questions if you guys had any. Kyle said she had the same experience today. She went to go talk to some youth.
Let me grab my charger real quick. Hold on.
Okay, no problem. So get those questions ready, ladies, if you have any questions for her, because we have to end promptly at 2:00 or before. So if you have any questions for Cheyann while she's getting her charger, let us know and we can get to them as they come through. Thank you, Imani, for your interaction. Kyle, I'm so proud of you today, and you speaking to those kids. I'm telling you, every time I spoke at that graduation, I cry like a big old baby. So I understand how you felt after that experience today. Those kids are really special. After you hear all their essays and their writings on why they came there, isn't it amazing? And I'll call you later to talk to you about it. So, okay. You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. No problem. So, so what I want to do is talk about creating your own path. You know, you kind of already touched on that. We hit on that, but literally about why you are, you know, like you said, creating stories that are about us and that are made by us. Why did you decide that? You know, what made you say, this is what I need to do? And even about your new name. Tell us about that too. Go into that.
Yeah, I realized that even in so when you create a film or any sort of media project that you want to get, gain an audience for, the best, easiest route is to go through film festivals.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that even in film festivals, I was categorized always in just the Latino section, and that just didn't fit with me. Yeah, I mean, I know that it's a beautiful part of my identity, but I am more than that. Just like everybody else, we are more than that. We are more than our race or this ethnicity that we carry. If anything, it's my pride. It's who I've become and who, my ancestors I carry with me. But
Yeah.
I knew that this is, media is stereotypical. It's part of the language. It helps people recognize, oh, okay, if we say she's a woman, Cheyann, oh, okay, Latina, so we're going to expect only this from her.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had to create a path. I want to tell blockbuster films. I want to be the Indiana Jones. And I have some stories that could go into franchises. So for me, I had to really dig deep and say, how do I create this new path for myself? If I were to go into working at a studio, even a studio or whatever workplace, they carry their energy and their brand, and those are the stories that you tell through them. So I knew I wanted to tell stories that are almost hybrids, and in order to create that, I have to do it independently and hope that, as I'm creating, the higher up distribution companies will see, hey, there is a market for this, but you're creating that market right now. So when it's invisible and unknown, you can literally do whatever you want. So that's where I'm at now, is that, I want to hold on to my initials, CC Reagan, because to me, that name is going to have that universal approach. It's not going to put any sort of barrier on me. I have people reaching out to me that don't even know I'm a woman, which is kind of cool. I want people to love my work based on my work, my talent, and not because I'm a woman or I'm a Latina or because I'm American. Like, I want the work to speak for itself. And that was really important to me. So I actually have my main picture on most of my social media accounts as just my symbol, my logo, which is just my initials with some, it's a golden ratio. It's all mathematical. And there's a little bit of Egyptian influence on it because I want people to know subliminally, I want to tell stories that have like history or they're epic or they're big. And so that's where we do have this space in this new media world that we can create how we want to attract the type of people that we want. And I'm creating that path for me as a storyteller, that I'm not going to be limited to any type of story. I can tell a romantic comedy, or I can do a sci-fi or a children's animation. That's what I'm creating for myself.
Wow, that's amazing. And thank you for doing that. And I think that you're an example to teach women to create our own paths. And I'm just going to piggyback on that because that's what I did. This is why I started this group. This is why I started my business and my new brand. I was going to run for office, get ready to run for public office, or I was going to start something that would be on a broader scale, that would reach people across the country and even internationally, a message, that about, getting into politics, creating community influence, making that change within your community and how to do it. Because people were wanted to take action because of the new elections. People want to do something now. And I said, instead of waiting for somebody to say, oh yeah, Chandra, it's your time to run for this position of office, we'll let you now. We'll let you take that role. Or Chandra, now you can be vice president of this union because you worked for us for a long time. So we're going to give this to you. I didn't want to wait for anybody to give me anything. I said, I'm going to create my own show. I'm going to create my own brand. I'm going to create my own service and what I do well. This is what I know. This is what I'm an expert in. And this is what I'm going to sell. And this is what I'm going to be. And this is what I'm going to put out to the universe. I did it for myself. So, and that's what we need to do. We need to create our own path. We don't have to wait for anybody. We are the captain of our own ships. There are no gatekeepers. There's nobody holding that gate saying, okay, Cheyann, you could come in now. You are taking that train and slamming it through there and saying, you can't hold and stand and be the doorman of my world, right? Yeah. There's nobody there.
You know when you're built for that. Like, I think there's certain personalities that know when they can build from scratch, and then there's certain that will go a different path, and there's no wrong path. As long as you're creating the change that you want to see in the world, I think that's what we're doing right now.
Yes, yes. So I asked the ladies to prompt questions. I don't see any questions, ladies, but bring them on. Imani said, right on, blaze the path that speaks to you. Thank you, Imani. Anything else, Cheyann, that you want to add, or anything how we can help you in this group?
I just want to share about the group a little bit. I mean, I started watching and listening to a few people's videos, and I just think it really is important to have a support group. I was sharing with Chandra earlier that I had a support group for like a year that I just allowed myself to really sink in and work out those blocks, work out those things as women we've put on ourselves, or the things that we had to get past, such as trauma, or, you're not good enough, all those demons in our head. I really put the time in to build up that sisterhood and trust. It's very hard, I think, as women to trust each other. And yes. Who created that? It finally hit me, like, I'm sure some man said that and then put us against each other, And that's where there's a lot of beautiful men too that are so supportive, and yes. But that's where I just knew, like, you know what, I needed this time. Sometimes you do need that, and so don't see the group as something that don't take for granted, this space, because if you found this space and you're in it, live it. Let it marinate and find your answers, because I had that group, and that's where I was lovingly happy to talk to you guys, because you need that. You need that to really figure out what you need and put those pieces together and put your tools, get them ready, because once you go, that train doesn't stop and you got to keep moving. So
you got to be ready.
Yeah, and that support group is absolutely necessary. So I applaud you all for figuring that out, because a lot of women haven't, and that's where you have to share.
Yes, exactly. All right, Cheyann, how can we support you or do anything for you for your projects? Is there anything we can do to share? Maybe share about your website. I mean, let us know how this group can help you.
You can go on my website, ccreagan.com, and I'm on social media. Feel free to add me. If I don't add you right away, send me a little message, because at least with Facebook, I try to be a little bit more intimate. Like, I like to meet people through Facebook, because I like to share with my family and my daughter.
Is it cc.reagan? I'm sorry, did I do it right? Or is it CC Reagan? Just CC Reagan?
Oh, just ccreagan.com.
Okay, let me do it again.
Yeah. Okay. But on Instagram, Twitter, my professional page on Facebook, feel free to add and follow. If there's any projects you see, feel free to share it. And then I will definitely be letting everyone know when we start shooting my film and everything's moving forward, because it's going to be awesome.
Okay, good. Sorry, I have a lot of background noise. A lot of family is here, and they talk really loud. So,
that's life.
Right. So, all right, ladies, nobody has any questions. I think you probably just got the motivation and encouragement just from the interview. But Cheyann, thank you for giving us your time and your encouragement and your story. I'm going to keep watching you, and you please, anything I can help you with, anything I can do from San Jose, you let me know. But keep doing what you're doing and kicking butt. So
thank you. Thank you so much. Bye, ladies.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
We end it, and then we'll sign off.